All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting order. Please rise for pledge of allegiance.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We get a moment of silence, please.
I know, I was too.
All righty. I want to welcome everybody here and folks watching us. Start with a roll call. I'll start with Mr. Stephen.
Here.
Mr. Culberson.
Here.
Mr. Paz.
Here.
Mike Smith here. And
Here.
All right. We got some public comments, it looks like. These are 3-minute limits on this, and I think Gary Smith. Is Gary here? I didn't see him.
Yeah, he's here.
Gary Smith, did you come forward, Gary?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Yeah. How you been? Just name and location and address.
Yeah, Gary Smith, 19912 Mitchell Road, Tonganoxie.
Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, I'm here to let everyone know on the Commissioner's Board here that I am 100% opposed to the Mitchell Estates without road improvements. The road is terrible and the dust is horrible. I live about 600 feet off the road, and then dust is a daily problem. And I know from my parents and the rest of the folks that live close, it has to be worse. I came back from Leavenworth one day and I got up, just about in front of Doug's place, and you could see the boiling of dust all the way down the road from up there. And I've been told that there's not enough traffic to constitute paving the road, but I'm here to tell you there is. You have McGraw Fertilizer, their trucks and their vehicles up and down the road all day. Mitchell Road is the only crossroad between County Road 9 and County Road 5 until you go all the way up to Jarglow, and then you can come over on the paved road there. There's no courtesy in the neighborhood except from the old timers. Some of them will slow down, but the rest of it, sometimes you see there's a couple of high school kids that run through there daily at 60 mile an hour with no regard. I'm not opposed to having houses built. I know about progress, but there ought to be something to do on the road itself. We were notified of this change by, it leaked out from Dan Lynch. Otherwise, we have no idea that they were planning all of this. I called planning and zoning, and they said this, it's a done deal. There's nothing you can do. We received no letter of rezoning, but it's funny that the property, the 40 acres across from Suncatcher Lake, all of them got a notice of rezoning and are invited to come and speak. We have 100% of the people on our road in opposition to this without some type of a road improvement. And my request today, before I run out of time, is that you guys table this until there can be some type of a determination on a road improvement. And I'm asking that you guys consider that. Because the dust is terrible. The traffic is more than what the road count, they so-called. I'd like to see the road count study. But in closing, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Gary.
Julie Jacobs. Good morning.
Morning.
Julie Jacobs. I live at 272 Mitchell Road. I've lived out there 25 years. I've put up with the dust, fought the dust all this time because I want to be away from the city. I don't want the houses there. I'm 100% against them. I know I can't change it, and I don't like it. But if they're going to go in, same thing. The road needs to be improved. I eat enough dust right now. We are going to double, more than double, the houses on the street. And between the traffic from the new houses, the traffic from the houses being built, all the heavy equipment that's going to come in, all the rock that's going to be delivered, the concrete that's going to be delivered, the lumber that's going to be delivered, not to mention McGraw Fertilizer that's up and down the road with their fertilizer trucks. The dust is unimaginable, and it's going to be to the point where you can't even go outside it's going to be constant dust. I only live maybe 150 feet off the road, and when the wind's not blowing, it is a solid cloud, and it just lingers and hangs. So I am in agreement. I want this tabled until something can be considered or done with the road, some kind of improvement. Not to mention County Road 5, Tonganoxie Road, is going to have improvements. They're going to have to close the road down to put new pipes across to extend the road out. Everyone's going to be coming down County 9 straight across Mitchell to head to Leavenworth Road. So we're going to get even more traffic from that. So, like I said, I want something done with the road before any of this begins. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Margaret Smith. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. I am here to let the commissioners know that I believe the road should be paved before any construction begins. Also, if this is approved before it is, I believe there should be perk tests done on the 8 10-acre plots, because when the gas company put their new line in 1976, it went across that property and, of course, across on ours. And I happen to know a little bit about what's in that ground. I saw firsthand, and I believe that this needs to be done before that is ever approved. And like I say, we don't have anything to block the dust. That is an open field, and as I said before, we've been here 54 years. There's not a tree, not brush or anything in the ground that they're proposing this. And concerning us, we get so much more of the dust because there's nothing to stop it. And like I said, I hope they will do the perk test before they approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Rex Wallace. Good morning, sir.
My name is Rex Wallace, and I live at 20698 207th Street, County Highway 9. My property borders Mitchell Road to the north and Mitchell Estates to the east. And I'm in agreement with all my other neighbors that are here today and the ones that spoke last week that I think this Mitchell Estates needs to be tabled until you can do further road traffic studies on Mitchell Road just to determine the actual current traffic on that road, because it is terrible. The dust is, I'm a new kid on the block. I've only lived there a year. But my wife and I made a significant investment in the property and built a brand new house, brand new barn. So we're planning on staying there for a while, but it's, when we did that, our house actually faces a blacktop road, but like I said, to the north of us is the gravel road, and we get quite a bit of dust in our house just from the gravel from Mitchell Road. So, I don't know if there's been a current traffic study done on that road, but we've heard through the grapevine that comments have been made that there's not enough traffic on that road to warrant being a blacktop. I'd like to kind of see those studies, if they're official studies, traffic, surveys. If not, I can like to have you guys come down and step with me in my truck on Mitchell Road, and we can sit there and count the cars as they go by. Because I guarantee there's a lot of cars, a lot of trucks, McGraw, school buses go buzzing down through there, and they don't slow down either. And when they build or do the widening on County Highway 5, like you said, they're going to close the road, and Mitchell Road is going to be the detour. And it's really going to get angry through there. My job previously, before I retired, was I was environmental manager for a steel foundry in Kansas City. And I know KDHE is putting a lot of focus on nuisance dust in the surrounding, in the farmlands, manufacturing. And I spent quite a bit of time over in Topeka with the KDHE inspectors and talking about mitigation of nuisance dust on our property and the silica problems and the potential of respiratory illnesses, from just inhaling nuisance dust it's a big target for KDHE now. And they were making us, my company, I was having to get a well drilled and put water cannons in just to water our parking lots. So I know it's a focus, and I just kind of want to ask the commission to really give this a deep consideration before you approve it, to how this is going to impact the people in the neighborhood, the current neighbors that are there. And, like I said, they've got a lot of time and money invested in this, and they don't want to see any, devaluation of their property or increased health problems due to this. So we would just like for you guys to think about us and, give us a little due consideration before you approve it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Gary Conley?
Commissioner, my understanding is Mr. Conley didn't show up this morning, so there is somebody who was on at the end that would move up into that spot.
Okay. Yeah. Morning.
Good morning again. Ladies and gentlemen, Kirk Peterson, 20618 Mitchell Road. I know I spoke to you a week ago. I just got on YouTube, so I didn't hear all my neighbors make a comment, so I try to not be redundant in the message. But we were notified last night. I don't know what's going on in planning and zoning and notification. I'm still trying to get my arms around all this. But a letter was sent out to property owners across from the lake that says the planning and zoning for Pine Ridge Partners. They were notified with a letter about zoning changes and next to their subdivision. I've asked my neighbors, were you guys notified 8 years ago when we did Lincoln Farm Estates? Nobody can acknowledge it. So this is a zoning change. I get that there's a technicality in how we're looking at things, but if there's a subdivision going on with a notice to show tonight, give your opinions about a subdivision, why wasn't that same method used for Mitchell Estates? Is it a technicality in what was zoned? Butnoski Estate was a huge 240-acre farm. I bought a 155-acre farm. As I said last week, I zoned it. I went through all the hoops. I did all the things legitimately. My neighbors didn't get any notice for that. So in the transparency of what's going on in this community, in this county, the 5 of you work for us. This is our money. I've had access fees passed on to the people who built on mine, which was called the road access fee, which is over $6,000, I think, at the time. I understand that that's been eliminated due to other rules that you do as a developer. There's a sales tax rule in this county for 1% for road development. Where does it stop? Then I've got my mill levies. I've got taxes for schools. I get all that. But my taxes have doubled in 8 years on a 40-year-old house. How much is enough? How much is enough? Notifying your property owners of what's going on in your front yard seems to me reasonable, not unreasonable.
all we ask. But this slid through, as I mentioned last week. You guys are getting ready to vote to approve Mitchell Estates. We ask you to table this until the road structure study is done. You have a plan for Mitchell Road. I had the best day in dirt in 8 years yesterday because they replaced a culvert on Mitchell Road. I begged the foreman to not fill that hole in. That's where we're at. Please work for all of us in this county. I get revenue. I get that you guys want more houses to raise taxes, but it affects all of us. Don't make Leavenworth County the next trailer park where it's a little slice of a house, a little slice of a house, a slice of a house. This is a beautiful territory. Abe Lincoln walked across the Butnowski farm.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All righty, that ends and we'll go, I think, audit review. Mark?
If I could, just real quick, I have Mr. Knoll up here this morning, and I'd like for him to be able to get back down. He has just one real quick request, taking about a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Come on, Bill.
Early this week, we received a request from Atchison County regarding the bridge that had previously been entered into an agreement with for this reconstruction on the county line. In that agreement, there were some preliminary engineering and initial work for the setup of the construction project that was being split by both counties. And then concurrently, there was a 50-50 share agreement for that structure. The initial costs for that structure were approximately $71,000 for Leavenworth County. Those costs, hindsight, did not include all the aspects of the construction of that bridge. And so at this time we received an additional request from Atchison County to cost share $32,450. So our share of that cost would be $16,225. That would include half of the state required bridge inspection necessary to enter the data into the KDOT portal and acquire load ratings. And then secondary to that, the initial cost estimates did not include the backfill of the bridge, the removal of the existing structure, delivery of dirt, or the purchase of the gravel that would then be placed upon the roadway. So for your consideration, per the previous agreement, we would need approval for that purchase or that additional cost of $16,225.
Bill, in other words, you're bringing us a change order already.
Yeah. Well, it's a completed bridge. The bridge is open and done, and they had not notified us previously, and so they have incurred these costs already. They're asking us if we would consider reimbursement for those.
Okay, I got you. I didn't understand it first. Okay.
We're on the hook for half the bridge.
Yeah. I agree with
It's
that.
not like a contractor change order.
I agree with that, Commissioner. My concern was, if anyone knows me, I hate change orders, and I know they exist, but this has already been done, and we're coming back because that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, Commissioner, just a reminder that this wasn't our project. This was an Atchison County project, but we have an agreement in place that because it's a border bridge, that we split the cost with them.
Well, I agree with that, but still, it's our funding.
And then the other aspect of it, because I had some of those same questions, and went back to the previous documentation prior to this goes back to all the way back to 2011. Mm-hmm. But some of the previous documentation. It is a additional cost, but it's not necessarily a change because they did not include, it's a change from the original cost, but it's not a change order as in they did not change the scope of the project. They just simply did not include all of the aspects of the project when they sent us the initial cost. So it is a change order for additional cost, but it is
not at the contractor's request. It was an oversight by the staff up in Atchison County.
And mark funding is available?
Yes.
First meeting on this bridge was in Potter, Kansas in 2011. So.
Potter.
Potter.
I've been there in years.
The other kind of side note to that is since the 2011 discussion, Atchison County has probably had 5 or 6 different people responsible for the road department. Mm-hmm. So it has come to this conclusion with their current staff.
All right. Any motion?
Commissioner Culberson's area.
Jeff?
Yeah, I was just looking for the verbiage. Can I just say I'd like to make a motion to approve the expenditure for the cost for the.
And I put the amount on there too, Jeff.
16,200.
I know you-
Just say not to exceed 17,000.
Not to exceed $17,000 for the completed bridge project.
Got a motion?
Second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Culberson?
Aye.
Collins?
Aye.
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 Passes. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, Mark, back to you.
Commissioner Smith?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Quick, before we go to the audit, I just had a couple of questions. Kind of address some of these things. Mark, could you kind of address the dust control program that the county has and how folks can access that for paving their application to pave the roads and how much the cost is?
Sure. About, I think 3 years ago, we implemented a dust control program where people who live along dirt or gravel roads can apply to the county. I think it's January through mid-March, late March, that you can put your application in. And then the county will put you on the dust abatement program where we'll come in and put down chip seal or whatever application we're doing at the time. The cost is right now, I believe, is about $19.50 a linear foot, say $20 a linear foot. You can cost share that with your neighbors, or you can pick up the tab on your own if you prefer. And you can put that on your taxes for a 5-year period. There's no interest charged. We have that program is very popular. I think the last 2 years it's actually filled up because there is a limit on the amount we can do. But it's been a good program, and it replaced the participatory road program.
And moving forward on dust control, as far as making decisions on prioritization of roads, we strictly go by traffic counts
Well,
for the most part.
we number one, we look at funding. That's the first thing we look at. Number two, the traffic impact counts do come into play, but we also look at any safety issues, realignment, that kind of stuff. But the preferred route and the only way that you can guarantee that your road will be improved is the dust control program, where you pay the $19.50 a linear foot, which is a greatly subsidized amount. We're not charging for our labor or some of the prep work and base materials are not in that cost. So it's a really good program. And again, it's popular enough that we usually run out. The last 2 years we've ran out of applications. So.
And to put that in perspective, Mike, the last project that used that program, I calculated what it would cost each individual landowner. I think it was along 187th Street, and it ended up being $150 or $180 a month for 5 years for each of the landowners. So it's surprisingly affordable.
So I think that's something that you folks need to look at or consider. And then the other thing is, when the houses are there, we continuously do traffic counts. And Mark, and I guess Bill left, but you did say you looked at the traffic counts on Mitchell Road.
Yes, Commissioner Smith asked for those, so I made sure that we had those available. The one direction on Mitchell Road, it was 103, I believe, and the other way was 108 and 203.
East.
Yeah, back to the west, wasn't it?
To the east of 203rd.
Oh, yeah, right.
We're going, and then to the west, it was 203 or something.
Yep.
So, and then the other thing I would like to have you address is when we are typically property owners are notified when it's a rezoning.
Yeah, this is not a rezoning. The lots they're putting in are 10-acre lots, which are allowed. If Mr. Peterson said that the subdivision that he put in was 6 lots, and he didn't have to send out notification, it's again because the lots were allowed per zoning. We only send out notification when it's a rezoning. The subdivision they're referring to up across from Sun Chaser requires a rezoning. That's why the notifications went out.
And is that state statute or county regulation?
Commissioner, that's state statute.
That's what I thought.
I know that may not be satisfying answers for you folks, but at least you have some answers.
Okay. Any other commissioner before I go to Mark? Okay, Mark, go ahead.
Now we're ready for the audit review.
I'm April Swartz, one of the owners at Barney & Associates, and this is our second year to perform the audit. And we were able to actually come on site again this year, which was great. This year you had an added fund for us because you had all this extra money. So we got to do a single audit this year, which is a separate audit, separate from your financial statement audit, and we'll look at that a little bit as we go through the report. The letter that you received is our required communications letter. Essentially, it indicates that the financial statements are the responsibility of the county governance and management, and our job is to express an opinion as to whether we feel they're fairly stated. As you go through the letter, we would, if there were any adjustments that had to be made to the financial statements or proposed to management, they would be listed here. There were no adjustments this year. We're also required to indicate any areas where we feel there might be concern, and we did have a little bit of concern this year, as you've read in the letter. The Treasurer's Office, we discovered last year that the payroll account was off, and in the first year we did it, we felt like it was, you had a new payroll provider, you had a new payroll person, and so there was some learning curve there. Then an adjustment was made last year, if you recall, and then we moved forward. It was discovered that during the year of 2020, that account was not being reconciled. And so I know that some people from the clerk's office stepped in and did spend a bunch of time reconciling that account. That's really a function of the Treasurer's Office, and so we just are expressing concern. We feel like the Treasurer's Office needs to make sure that's being reconciled, and that that keeps that checks and balances between the two departments clean. We didn't have an issue with the balance once it was reconciled. We were able to tie out, and we were able to finally get the records we need, but it took multiple requests and a second visit back to the county to get that. Any questions on the letter?
Has that, and it might not be for you, but has that all been resolved now? We've got that taken care of with the Treasurer's Office?
I do believe so. April visited with them. I have visited with them. It is now being reconciled on a daily basis with the bank and the bank book that the treasurers maintain.
This shouldn't be happening. This is the second year this has occurred. Janet, turn your microphone towards you. Is this the second year that we've had to do this?
Yes, the first year it was off, and we maybe didn't know exactly that it wasn't being reconciled daily. We knew there was an issue. We knew it hadn't been reconciled because it was off.
Okay.
But then, as 2020 went, they discovered it was not being done, and so they had to go in and get it caught up and get it reconciled throughout 2020. And I do believe that it is being done now in 2021 and making sure it's tying. I think part of the problem was that sometimes the people responsible for that bank book really didn't understand the point of what they were doing. When you put a number on there, it really should tie to something. It's not just a number that never changes. It's got to be reconciled for the transactions, and I think that's being done now.
Yes.
We didn't think there was any problems with any issues of, something wrong being done. It's just they weren't doing the job, and that's part of the process of managing this type of money. Is you need to know what you got every day. That's why they call it a daily statement, which is what the Treasurer's Office prepares. And so daily, you should be able to reconcile and tie and prove every number on that statement.
That's why I was asking. This is the second year. In my opinion, we really shouldn't have this problem year after year.
So I have a question for Mark.
Wait just a second.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Hopefully we can, Mark, and somehow we can resolve this so we don't have this conversation again next year. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean
And it is something that we could come in. I mean, you pay us an annual fee, and that includes not just the audit. We're happy to come in intermittently throughout the year, maybe each quarter, and just do a spot check and make sure it's reconciling. And that's something we'd definitely be willing to do.
My only question for Mark is, since this is an elected official, what actually role does the county commissioners have in holding accountability towards this type of a event or these things within our budget?
Well, the duties that are being discussed right now of the treasurer are statutory duties of the treasurer. The Board of County Commissioners has no I guess, no oversight of those duties. Those are statutorily outlined. The responsibility falls upon the treasurer to follow the statutory duties and to, in this case, reconcile the accounts that we're discussing. Failure to do that, and then having the clerk's office do that, as stated earlier, creates a problem of checks and balances. The clerk's office is in place to do a checks and balance of the treasurer and vice versa. The treasurer is check and balance because of the elected nature of the positions. But as far as your oversight, or I shouldn't even say oversight, but your ability to control how that process works is very limited because of the nature of an elected official in that department.
Could you explain how that could possibly impact an audit? As far as the rating and all those type of things?
Well, if we were unable to reconcile the balances at year end, then you would not get what I'm getting ready to say. You got a clean opinion. I mean, we feel your financial statements are fairly stated. But that's only because the clerk's office found the differences and made a very large adjustment prior to the audit. So in reality, the financial numbers you would be getting from the treasurer's office on a daily basis, monthly basis, or annual basis are incorrect. They're wrong. And so then we would have to come in and say that you have a material weakness, something like that. And because they were corrected before we came in, that kept us from having to do the material weakness. But going forward, I mean, and that's because someone performed the function, okay? So for an auditor, we see the problem with it crossing the lines, but someone did perform the function, it was balanced when we came. So it's not, but that's a serious issue in the fact that if you're trying to maintain control of the funds, you've got to have someone responsible for making sure it's tied out every day.
But when you go to bond projects and things like that, doesn't our audit come into play also?
It does. You get a rating from the different rating agencies.
Okay.
Yes, if we failed to receive a clean audit, then the rating agencies definitely take that into consideration. A qualified versus a non-qualified audit make a big difference, and it can make a big difference in our bond rating, which even, when we're talking fractions of a percentage, it can make a big difference when you're issuing $10, $20 million in bonds at a time. So, yeah, it is important. I think that what's been identified as not reconciling daily, the problem with that is, you don't have any idea if you're financially making a good statement, whether there's money missing. You would have no idea until you actually reconcile that. So you could go a year or longer without knowing, in this case, of whether there was a problem with those funds. So that it's good that it's been identified. It's bad that it was 2 years in a row, and I do believe that they have put in place and hopefully addressed it so it won't continue, but it's a problem, and it's a significant problem, and it needs to be resolved once and for all.
Message sent. Okay.
But as April said, we did have a clean audit. I can assure you that is now being done daily. Yes, we did step in and help with some balancing, but we had members of the treasurer's office with us to make sure that the knowledge was there and that it would be done on a daily basis.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Other than that, everything was perfect. How's that for a summary?
I like a positive person. Go right ahead.
Leavenworth County does a great job. Janet's office, Debbie, helps us, primarily provides a lot of the information that we need for the audit, and everyone in all the departments are very helpful. The audit itself, if you look at page 1, we just talked about the opinion. When you read an opinion for a Kansas county, it sounds weird because first it says you get an adverse opinion for the GAAP because you don't do GAAP. You do regulatory basis. But if you read on page 2, you'll see that it is a clean, and the terminology has changed. It's now modified or unmodified, but you have an unmodified or clean opinion for your financial statements for this year. You will also notice on page 2, down about halfway, there is an additional paragraph regarding the federal awards. So there was a separate audit done on the federal awards, which I'll go through briefly when I get to the back of the report. Pages 3 and 4 are the actual financial statement for the county. And again, like I said, there were no adjustments, so these numbers are the same numbers you would have seen from Janet at year end anyway. You started the year with $40,472,000, and you ended the year with $40,182,000. So pretty consistent across the board. Now, that doesn't take into account that you received a large amount of federal dollars that you then expended and or gave to other entities to expend. If we go through the next several pages are just the notes to the financials, and again, these are repetitive from year to year. They give you more information about how to understand the financial statements, and I will not go in detail on those. On page 10 is your debt for the county. You can see that your debt at the beginning of the year started at $30,225,000. You issued additional debt of $9,323,000. The biggest chunk of that was your Series 2020A sales tax bonds. You paid all your payments timely and in accordance with your amortization schedules, and your ending balance for the year was $29 million, roughly $300,000. Let's go a little further back. If you'll turn to page number 16. 16 is where we compare your actual to your budgeted expenditures. So as you know, each fund is bound to the cash basis law and the budget law. So we do look to see that the budget, and maybe a budget has been amended, but the final approved budget is less, that the expenditures are less than the actual budget amount, and there were no budget violations by fund in 2020. So. Page 17, and I'll go a little bit through the general fund, and then I won't go to all the additional funds, but 17 is your general fund, which of course is your largest fund of the county. You can see that we present the actual, the budget, and the variance. And your receipts are separated by the different types. Of course, your major number one receipt is your ad valorem taxes. Your expenditures are broken out by department, and you can. The first one is county commission. I always like it. County commission is always first, so we can look and see how they did. And of course, you're under budget. Good job. So each department in the general fund has a budget. Now, the budget law applies to the fund in total. So a department could be over budget. And that would not be a budget violation as long as the fund in total is not. However, it's still not a good thing because each department needs to be held to their operating budget. And so you can go through and see there are a few departments that are over budget for the year. But again, it is not a budget violation. The rest of the pages following that for several are all the individual funds, which I won't go through in detail because I'm sure you don't want me to. So now we're going to skip back to the single audit. So when you expend more than $750,000 in federal dollars, you are subject to a single audit. So the county every year gets federal dollars, and so every year we look to see if you spent enough to require it. Well, in the past you hadn't, but this year with the Spark money, of course you did, because you received $19 million from, for the main Spark money, plus some other Spark money that you got and CARES money. So on page 52, you can see the county actually expended $20,584,000 in federal dollars, 19.3 of that being your CARES money. And of the 19.3, almost $14 million went to outside entities. So cities, counties, schools, nonprofits, the different entities that were received grants or other form of financing through the CARES money. So as part of that, then, we have to go through and we have to test at least 40% of your federal dollars. Now, you'll see in one part here it says, is this a low-risk auditee? Well, this county, no county will ever be a low-risk auditee because when you report on the KMAG method, you're always considered a high-risk auditee. So 40% is what we have to test. Well, easily by testing the Spark money, we hit the 40%. So that's the program we tested. And what we did is we went through the processes, who did what. We looked at the processes in place. We looked at the way the county allocated the funds. We looked at the spreadsheets that were submitted to the state on a monthly basis, and we then we selected samples from those, and then Debbie provided the detailed invoices and documentation that backed up those expenditures. For the county and a lot of the schools, the expenditures were payroll related, so then we did review payroll reports and things that were provided by the county and the schools and the city of Leavenworth. And those were the things we tested. So we had no findings, and you'll see on page 54 is our schedule of findings and questions costs. There were none. But that's also where you see that the auditee qualified as a low-risk auditee, and the answer is no, but don't be concerned about that. And then the last 4 pages of the report are the additional audit opinions that are required as part of the federal audit. The first one says we did your audit in accordance with government auditing standards, which is just a higher threshold. Everyone working on the job has to have a certain number of CPE hours in governmental auditing to do a Yellow Book audit. And then the second opinion is about the actual compliance testing and the fact that there were no findings on the compliance testing. And that would be my report unless you have questions or want more detail.
Excellent. Questions? Mike, do you have anything else to add?
Well, I just said, back to what we were talking about before, you mentioned that you provide service where you would come back and do a re-audit check. That's something that you do?
We can definitely do that, yes.
Okay.
We'd be happy to, maybe at the end of June, come in and just do a semi-annual check and just basically work on the bank balances, bank book. Or maybe we should do it and not say when we're going to do it. That's probably the better way to do it. We could just, we'll just call and say we're
It would be
done.
my opinion that would be a good idea, but I'll see what the rest of the commissioners think.
And it won't cost any additional. It's all part of our fee.
There's where we sell it, right there.
It's free.
cost.
It's not free. It's part of your.
Let me ask this. Maybe it's an awkward question. Even though we say we want to have this done, are they allowed to do it even if we say if they would object, that department would object to it?
Well, Commissioner,
I think it's an excellent idea.
my opinion is that statutorily our books are open. That would not be just for an auditor, but in any general request. So I don't think that creates a problem.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say.
Vicki, do you have it? I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that's open, so I don't think that there would be any kind of conflict. I mean, just in general, having anyone in, especially our auditor, come in and.
Well, I think it'd help be a win-win. It'd help that department or help that elected official and also do the things that we need to be done. So, Doug, Jeff, do y'all have a problem with doing that in 6 months?
No.
Jeff? I think that's something that we need to go with.
To keep us on our toes, knowing what.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Ultimately, you're responsible.
Right, that's what I
we know.
said. Keeping us on our toes
Mike,
and
did you
making
have
sure
anything
we're.
else you'd like to do?
No, that's all. I just think that's
I'll bring mine up in budget. Probably.
And then the other thing I might just mention is that if there's anything throughout the year that any of you as commissioners would like us to look into, you have a concern about, please let us know. Janet has my contact information. You can find it online. Because we're here for you year-round. So if there's something we can do to help, we're happy to.
Excellent.
Thank you, April.
Vicki, do you have
I would like to
Go
commend
ahead.
April for a minute because when we contracted with her firm, we have been able to reach out to her for budget questions, questions on the Sparks funding. They have always made themselves available, even through COVID, when we could not do face-to-face meetings. We were able to ask our questions by email or by phone. So they have been a very good firm for Leavenworth County to work with. So thank you.
And I tend to agree. I've done budgets and sit with them in my past careers for over 40 years, and this is probably one of the more user-friendly one I've heard presented. Sometimes, because I like people in the audience and people that are listening to have an idea of what we're trying to do up here, because sometimes it can be very technical and go in that direction. So I appreciate the way you addressed the commission on that.
Especially last year with the money that we received, it had to be passed through the county
I know.
and out to other agencies.
I know I was a mayor then. I was begging for it, so I remember it quite well.
Well, I would commend everyone that was involved in all the processes of that,
absolutely.
including our staff.
there was so much extra work for them.
It's an incredible accomplishment that we came through that, and all of the staff with a clean, audit because there was a lot of complicated things that happened and changes and adjustments.
Daily changes. And
right.
we partnered with a firm out of McPherson who had the staff that could just dive in and learn the Spark and work with the state. And so we recommended them to all of our counties. Now, some counties were big enough like yours that you didn't need that, but some of the smaller counties could actually contract because there was no way we could encompass and learn all of that. It changed daily. We were floating in PPP loans and everything else over here trying to figure all of that out. So I know they got their letter from the state saying it's a clean.
We did. That's why
from the state, and Debbie's hanging that on the wall, and I don't blame her.
I'm really proud of our administrator and our clerk's office and the work that they did to move us through that entire process.
And one more thing I'll say about your county is everything is available electronic, which is awesome. So Debbie, everything's just can be emailed to us. You don't realize how many counties still have the big paper, all the paper, and if they have to send it to us, they've got to scan it all. You guys were COVID ready before you needed to be, so that's good.
Jeff, did you have anything for go back to Mike?
Nope.
Okay, Mike, did you have something else?
I just wanted to tell Janet and Mark, and I know the audit team did, but thank you.
Yes.
You worked so hard.
I think saying there's a moving target is an understatement, because I was on the end of it sometimes making calls up here in my former job, and they both did a great job. I mean, because sometimes you wouldn't get the information the last second, and then you're trying to finish the paperwork and get it out to the right people. So yeah, I'm absolutely.
The county clerk is a hard job.
Yes. But it's also you got to remember that if this money was spent and it wasn't allowable, the county would have to pay it.
Right. And
even
that's why
if the
I said
cities and the school districts spent it,
everything went well.
we would have to pay it back. So
Yeah, I realize that too.
this was a scary thing.
You're right, Dick. Okay, if there's nothing else on that, then we thank you.
Thank you,
for
guys.
your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark, do you have anything else for us?
Not under administrative business.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Mike.
One thing. The issue of the Paradise Point trailer park and the transitioning of folks away from being in trailers to that becoming an RV park, I think there's a significant number of issues. I'd like to see that put on the agenda for next week.
I think you might want to. We have addressed this. We've looked into it, and I think the county councilor has looked into it. And I really think that we're at the point where there is nothing more for us to do.
Commissioners, the issues that I have been presented with are those of private contract between the owner of the property that is currently being used as a trailer, or a mobile home court, and the proposed use, possible future use of that property by the owner as an RV park. Those two uses are not compatible under the county zoning regulations, so there would have to be, if the owner wishes to change it from a mobile home park to an RV park, that is a decision they will have to make, and they would have to determine the mechanism to deal with any private contracts that they have between themselves and any of the current residents. The county's ability to interfere or intervene with respect to those contracts is basically non-existent.
My understanding was that Mr. Herring did meet with you and had a conversation, and there was some discussion as far as having a transitional period, and that was something that had been considered.
And that was looked into, and the problem is that you basically can't have mixed zoning uses, even in a transition period. Under their current regulations, it would have to be either a trailer park or an RV park. And as far as transition times, I'm not certain how the county could possibly administer that. And then it gets into, would the county basically be determining that you had to leave within a certain period of time? And that's basically putting ourselves in the role of being a landlord.
Well, the county, because of our zoning decision that we made, created this situation, so it seems like we should be able to arbitrate or mediate how this is handled.
That's not the case. We didn't. Our zoning, they have the right, it's private property, they have the right to continue to operate as a trailer park, mobile home park, as long as they'd like. The county did not change that.
Couldn't the developer put this off for a year and give the people the opportunity to move and make the arrangements, then come back and go forward with the what he wants to do with that land?
The developer.
Yeah, if they can be either or. That didn't change. They could be either or.
But if you gave him time, not through us, but through them.
Right. And he could do that on his time. If he wants a year, 2 years, or if he wants 90 days, he has to work. That's what county councilor is saying. That's a private property issue between him and his.
I get that, but it's kind of on the developer. He has some in his hands too, that he could wait a year and then start and give the people an opportunity to make the arrangements to move out. If that's what he wants to develop, it's his property.
Right.
Can the owner of the park, can they split the property? Part of it's a trailer park and part of they split it, and part of it would be the new zoning part? Is it a 20-acre tract of ground?
I'm not sure the size of the park or the layout of the park, if that's feasible or
not.
not.
It looks like it's half. It looks like it's got quite a bit of area, so I didn't know if you could just split.
Most of it's vacant.
That's what I'm saying. Most of it's vacant. I didn't know if you could split it, where to draw the line where the mobile home park is, and then split it and have the other part, the RV park, because it's an allowable zoning.
But that's not on us to make a decision.
That's a
on what-
decision the owner of that private property has to make.
And that's what it keeps going back to.
Well, but I have a question for staff, for Mark. Under the current interpretation of the zoning, which allows for RV parks, and they currently have a SUP that allows them to have a trailer park, what the county and the planning and zoning's position is that if you want to convert this property to an RV park, which is now allowed under the new zoning of County Road 1, if you want to convert it to an RV park, then the trailer park must close, and the citizens that live in the trailer must move out immediately. Or
Yes,
the
if the property owner decides they want to change the use of that property from the currently allowed use via the SUP, then yes, they have to change the use of that property entirely.
So the citizens, the 40 or so people that live in the trailers, would have to technically immediately be displaced.
If that's what the owner of that property decides the direction they want to go.
And my understanding was what the conversation with Mr. Herring and county councilor, which we just had them do at the last meeting, was that we would allow for a transition period in the implementation, or come up with a policy that would allow for that, and that's why I wanted to see that this be put on the agenda.
Well, Commissioner, I apologize, but I think there's a disconnect then between the conversation I had with Mr. Herring and the direction I believe, if I was given direction by the county, was can you have those two mixed uses simultaneously? And the answer is no. So
I think the issue is transitioning from one to the other.
And if the private property owner wishes to transition, i.e. move the mobile homes out and move RVs in, that's a mechanism they will have to determine. I can't see where our county zoning regulations come into play on that, other than you can't have two incompatible uses on the same parcel. Now, if the owner wish to somehow divide that parcel and present that to the county, that's a different matter. But that's, again, it's private property, and it's difficult for the county to come in and tell him or the tenants how to conduct their relationship, because that's a contract between those two.
Well, I think what they're looking at is maybe giving a timeline, say 3 to 5 years, and saying as your contracts on your trailers expire, then you move out.
But I think somebody's trying to ask us to be the people that make a decision to, quote, evict someone, constructively or otherwise, where I don't see that as being the role of the county commissioners.
Maybe, but I guess what I'm asking...
Legally, that's what we're asking. But that's what we are requesting, that we become the people who make a decision to tell an individual who lives someplace that they must leave.
Well, I'm not sure that that's the issue. I mean, what I'm just asking for today is to get this on the agenda so that we can have because I think Mr. Herring and the representatives of the landowner and the developers and the other folks.
But the landowner is the one that needs to come and make, Mr. Herring is not.
He's representing
But
the
he's not an attorney. He has no legal stand. I
just want to get it on the agenda.
Listen, we can go back. Okay. Is there a consensus to bring this back on the agenda? Jeff?
I don't know if we need to put it back on the agenda right away. Maybe down the road. I think some more conversation needs to be had between the owners and the contractors, and maybe even the county, maybe even planning and zoning, but I'm not sure we should put it on the agenda right now.
Vicki?
I don't know that there's anything that will be resolved or actually, in the end, but if there's a consensus, that's fine. But I don't see that there's anything that we can legally do, is my point. I just don't see that it's there. Maybe it is, but our counselor says it isn't. We have a property owner who requested to take advantage of a rezoning so that they could have a different use of their property because it's allowed. But in the past, they came and that was what they wanted, was to have the ability to have the trailer park, which is awesome. That's, and I think that Commissioner Culberson or maybe it was Commissioner Smith that said, can the property owner make a decision that they want to divide their property and do two different uses? But it sounds to me that the property owner is saying, no, I no longer really want to have trailers on my property, but I don't want to be the bad guy that makes a decision that says, but these individuals must move. And so I want the county to be the person that says these people must move, not the not the owner who has a special use permit that has not been declined, that has been reissued over time. So there have obviously been no complaints, nothing that has gone amiss with the property and its use. And so I don't want to be put in the position as a commissioner to make a decision that adversely impacts anyone when it isn't something that we've specifically done.
Well, I'm very clear. I don't want to see it come back. I think it's been beat to death. I think there's a choice out there from the developer to make the choice and give them a year or 2 years or not even do it at all. For us to come in and oversee that is not our role. I do not believe so. I don't want to see it come back. Doug?
Well, I'd like to see if they could split the property and have half of it. Now, is that something they'd have to apply to planning and zoning and go to the planning commission if they split the property? And
yes, that would be a planning and zoning proposal that they'd have to submit. Again, not knowing the ins and outs of the property or how that works, that would be something they'd have to go through.
I just think it's a new business. The RV parks seem to be popular, and the one we do have in the county is a very nice park, and it seems to have a lot of people using it.
Right. I don't.
They're good.
Commissioners, if I could, I fully understand Commissioner Stevens' position. The issue is, do you have the tools to do that? And one of the greatest barriers is if a current tenant on that property has a multi-year lease by whatever term, that's a contract between that tenant and the property owner, and we cannot abrogate that, extend it, shorten it, affect it. So when the transition period is referenced, you have no power to enforce that, because if that person has a unlimited lease, if that person has a 10-year lease, if that person has a 5-year lease, they have a lease agreement. It's a form of a contract that we cannot alter.
Right.
Unless, basically, you effect a taking under eminent domain.
And I understand what you're saying, but all I'm asking is that we get them in here and get all the facts and have a conversation.
Well, I think I've heard enough of the facts. I would think it'd be more like what Commissioner Smith is saying. Maybe they want to meet and see it, or Vicki, I think it can be split. But I'm only one vote. I ask again, this time without a presentation. Jeff, do you want to see it come back before the board?
Is there a time limit involved? I would say yes, but not right away, because I think there just needs to be some more conversation
to see if they can split the property.
Yeah, a couple other things. The zoning itself.
30 days?
Readdress. Yeah, ask again in 30 days.
Readdress in 30 days. Vicki?
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. 3 or 2. It'll be brought back up again in 30 days. Thank you, everybody, for your input. At the time, I would suggest very strongly, though, that Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Cos has asked about rezoning or splitting the property. Because that's the only way I see anything that can be looked at.
That's kind of like...
So I would say go that direction. But let's move on. Mark, you have anything else for us?
Nope.
Okay. Anything else from any other commissioner? Go ahead, Doug.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask that the commission all sign a birthday card for Anna Mary Landauer. I believe she's 103. She will. I'd like to have her sign. I spoke with her yesterday, actually, at Baser, and she will be at the Baser City Council meeting tonight. So they're planning something special for her. So I'd like to be able to commissioner sign it, and I'll give her the card tonight. And then her birthday is May 5th. And I always remember it because my son's is May 6th and my wife's May 7th. So I always remember her birthday.
You know she'd be in trouble, so you know you have that.
But she was the past mayor of Baser for many years, and that's when Baser started really growing, and it's not going to stop. So I just, she's a real interesting person to talk to for history of the county. And she's in great shape for her age.
That's really thoughtful.
I appreciate if everyone signed it after the meeting. I'll take it tonight to the city council meeting.
I appreciate you bringing that up. That's just fantastic. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll go with the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that needs to be pulled?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion we accept the consent agenda as presented minus item F, which is the Ackerland Hill plat.
Okay. Got a motion, got a second? Second? Okay, we'll call the roll.
You got some discussion?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. On the Mitchell Estates, the traffic study was done by Olson. Is that correct?
I think that traffic count.
The traffic.
This
count.
wouldn't have initiated a traffic.
This didn't qualify for a full-blown traffic study.
I don't believe so. That'd be
okay.
I don't think there's enough parcels or traffic proposed there.
Okay. All right. Well, I voted to pave 155th Street before we did Eisenhower. So when we shut Eisenhower down, so I hope that before we shut Tonganoxie Road down, we could pave this road. So that's all I think we can do at this time is to pave it going forward. We can't do anything right now and put it on the developer. It's already went through the system.
Chip and seal?
Chips, or whatever we do, dust abatement.
It was chips. I think we chip sealed it. No, we paved it.
Well,
that was because it failed.
Right,
But
it was chip seal. But anyways, the reason we did 155th, it started out as a little experimental spot.
Right.
And Commissioner Klemp at the time wanted to say, we'll go ahead and finish this because when they shut Eisenhower down, people are going to be using it. I think this road here would fit the same criteria that when we do the Tonganoxie Road project. I know it's not going to be the official detour, but I tried to get this road hard surfaced when we shut down the two bridges on Tongi Road for 1 year. It wasn't the official detour, and unfortunately it became the official detour, and then folks went through quite a bit of traffic there. I know it doesn't meet the traffic count at today's standards, but I would just hope when time comes I'd have the support that I gave toward the other road to be paved. And we can look at it then. What's that? No. It's not a public hearing.
No, and I tend to agree with Commissioner Smith because I came on right on the cusp of all of the 155th Street being done because of DeSoto Road.
Yeah, we had two projects. We had DeSoto Road being shut down, and that road didn't have the traffic count either, but we went ahead and did it because of it was going to be an unofficial detour. And I use it every day.
No, but we have to look at what we have
funding-wise,
right, and what's available to do something like that. So I don't want to make a total commitment.
Right, but I'm saying
that wouldn't be fair to say this is exactly what will happen. But what we're trying to approve here is something that or being asked to approve here is
something that
it's
boxes.
Yeah, it does. It checks the boxes as to our role as county commissioners.
Okay.
And
Mike?
I would
concur.
Say that I agree.
Okay. All righty. If there's nothing else, we got a motion and a second. I'll start with Commissioner Steben.
Aye.
Mr. Culberson.
Aye.
Mr. Cause.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Okay, now we need to go back to the other one. Get a motion on it?
For removing? Or?
No, for approving. Is it Acre Hill?
I think David wanted to table.
I'll make a motion that we table Ackerland Acres until further notified by the county councilor.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Commissioner Culbertson's motion is at my request. In reviewing the proposal for this subdivision, it deals with a cross-access easement, and this is a rather new issue for the county. One of the requirements is that there be a filing in the Office of the Register of Deeds, basically a homeowners association that would require the maintenance of all the public utilities within that subdivision be the responsibilities of the owners of property within a subdivision. The problem is that the agreement form has never really been finalized. A proposed homeowners association document was submitted along with the plat. I can tell you from my review of it, it does not meet, I believe, the minimum requirements that this commission wished to have done, which is an acknowledgement that these are private roads, that the full responsibility for the cost and maintenance of that is the responsibility of the homeowners by some share of division of the costs. And I'd like to have this tabled so that I can prepare language to be included in such future agreements as the minimum requirements that the county would expect to be within that agreement. We will not draft those agreements, but I think it serves the county's interest to protect the taxpayer from being placed with the responsibility of these future costs by putting certain language requirements in those homeowners associations. And I'd ask for 2 weeks to prepare and finalize that language with the assistance of your planning and zoning staff and move forward from that point. And I apologize for this, but in looking at what was submitted, I do not believe it achieves the purpose that this board wanted.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Jeff, did you get a motion?
Yeah, and I said until further notice.
The county commission.
We have to have a certain date on.
Do you need a certain date?
Date certain, yeah, 2 weeks.
There's no public hearing. So
No, there's no public hearing, but 2 weeks should be sufficient, commissioners. And I understand the property owner probably wishes to have this matter finalized.
So tabled for 2 weeks.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion second. Any more discussion on this one? Not. Commissioner Steedman?
Aye.
Culberson?
Aye.
Cos?
Aye.
Aye. And aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Formal board action. Consider a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 comprehensive plan for community corrections. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
All right. So this morning we're just not trying to waste your time. You obviously have a lot of busy, important work. So we just have 3 simple requests. One is a line item adjustment, and then our 2 approval for our 2 comprehensive grants for fiscal year 2022.
Well, I've had a chance to review both. And
Sorry, what?
I've had a chance to review your comprehensive plans. You've done an outstanding job, Jamie. Thank you very much.
you.
I agree.
Any discussion on it? Any questions being directed?
You ready for a motion?
Ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the fiscal year 2022 comprehensive plan for community corrections.
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? I think it's well done. Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Mr. Culberson?
Aye.
Aye.
Cos? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Jamie.
enjoy visiting and meeting Jacqueline this week. She's
Oh, yes.
wonderful.
Yes, I
Look forward
appreciate you
to
guys taking the time to meet with her.
look forward to having her provide services.
Yes, us as well. We're very excited to have her on board.
Or she's just here.
We want to.
You need all of them or just the chairman?
Just the chairperson.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
What else was David? Is it just one place or 2?
There should be 3.
That didn't sound right. There it is. Okay.
Jamie, in the future, if you'll just leave those with Becky, she'll make sure and get the signatures after our meeting.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
That way we don't miss any.
I missed the spot. I'll catch up with you. I think I called them all.
All right, thank you.
If I did, when
Thank
I
you.
signed too many places, you can let me know that too.
Thanks, Jamie.
Okay, consider a motion to approve the Council on Aging to enter
Commissioners.
into MOU with Jeremy Greenemeyer of Greenemeyer Reynolds.
Commissioners, you also need a separate motion to approve the line item adjustment for their current year budget.
Motion to approve the line item adjustment for their current budget for community corrections.
Second. Motion and second, and there's no discussion. Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Sorry I didn't catch that.
Thanks, Jamie.
Now,
Thanks,
come
Rhonda.
on up. You looked anxious anyway.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Hey, Rhonda.
Commissioners, I'm asking for the approval to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Jeremy Greenemeyer for his proposal and application for the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation to build Second Avenue Estates. Part of that requires that they provide, as a part of that application, access to senior services, including transportation and activities. It's cost neutral for the county as they would be paying for that service from us to provide them notification of activities. Since submitting this request for board action, I've had the opportunity to collaborate with county council about the term of that. And he suggested adding additional language that would allow the Council on Aging or Greenemeyer Rentals to terminate that contract after 60 days, even though it does allow for a term of 5 years. So I guess I'm asking for a conditional approval of what you see with the addition of that language on the term.
Is that a federal program or is that a state program?
A state program that they're applying to be a part of to build a senior housing development.
Do they receive federal funding for that, or do you know through the state, or is that strictly state money?
I believe it's state funds.
Any comments? I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve the Council on Aging entering into a memorandum of understanding with Jeremy Greenemeyer of Greenemeyer Rentals with the provision of an addition of a condition.
Commissioners, I think it'd be appropriate motion just to approve the MOU as presented. And the addition of that term language was to bring the agreement into compliance with the cash basis law.
Okay.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Mr. Stephen?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Next.
Hey, thanks for all you're doing. I hear good things.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
We're
Appreciate
having
it.
a great time over there.
Thanks for getting back to normal.
All right. Consider a motion to grant the Register of Deeds funding request from the American Rescue Plan Act 2021 in the amount of $740,443. Welcome.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I appreciate your time to consider my request for funding from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Our request is related to enabling our office to continue to work in the safest and socially distanced, responsible way and try to minimize any future impact of COVID-19 public health crisis. You are familiar with most of what is on this. I have added in homework stations, the equipment that would be needed for that, and also the handheld viewer in the event of EMP or we would not be able to have access to electricity. We have a handheld device we can at least look at microfilm. The auditor said in her closing remarks, everything is available electronically. And we can't make that statement in our office right now. So getting all of our records online, not only would it help increase our fees because more records are available to be researched. It's also going to be safer. If you notice, I gave you a handout that is actual comparisons of what raw data looks like on the microfilm and after these documents have been digitally enhanced. So the clarity would improve for the researchers and help to minimize errors in chain of title searches. The other thing on the air purifiers, Chairman Smith, I told you that I would find if the cost would come down on those in multi-unit purchases, and they would be $1,099 each. If it was over 20, then I guess it's negotiable with them.
Okay.
So my main push for this is to get those records online and get our complete land record history available as soon as possible. By doing that, researchers will be able to do most of their work from home, from their home office, and not have to come in and create any more exposure to my staff. I'll stand for any questions.
740,000.
That is.
That's a large. That's a large number. Where is that funding supposedly coming from?
My research was on what was allotted to the Leavenworth County was $15,856,461. Now, after I had submitted my packet, a discussion with Mark also found out that we don't know for sure what that funding amount is. So if I could only have one thing on this list, it would be to cover the U.S. imaging, because that is the holdup. That has to be paid for in one lump sum. I can't pay that out or make future payments on it. They want a complete payment up front.
And what's that amount?
That amounts to $197,000, and if we did the index books, $67,500. The reason for the index books is there's going to take some time for my team and the Condor team to do the back indexing. Since February, we've added 4,700 documents back indexing. So that's not dedicated. That's as we complete all of our other duties, then we are doing back indexing.
Let me ask you this, just to clarify. When you presented to us before, weren't we raising fees, or weren't you raising fees, because you can do it, to cover these costs on these items that I see before me?
We were. One of my requests is that the copies, the revenues are currently deposited into the general fund for copies, and I'm asking that be redirected into the Rod Tech Fund. But this month we've collected to date, and this is not everything, about $1,900. So, there are additional fees, but accumulating those and waiting for the time for that to happen, we are risking exposure.
Well, just direct the question. When I get 1 second, I got one more. Mark, have we been received any of it, or been told what the funding is going to be for us yet? I thought it seems like it's a moving target, and I know me and you talk about this every other day.
Yeah, Commissioner, the amount that has been identified for Leavenworth County is approximately $15,400,000. But what nobody can communicate to me is if that includes any portion that's going to the cities. So the cities will get direct funding. It won't go through the county this time around. So oftentimes what you see at the federal level is they say, we're sending $15 million to Leavenworth County. But what they don't say is, and $8 million of that is going to this city, $2 million here, $3 million. Now, I believe the full 15 million will come here, but we don't know that, and we won't know that probably until it arrives in our bank account, because that's the way this is going to play out at the U.S. Treasury, because they're struggling to figure out how to distribute $2 trillion in 60 days.
Okay, Mike, did you have some?
Two things. Now, let's say it's 15,400,000. My understanding is we would receive half, and then a year later we'd receive the second half. And then the second question, that's for Mark, and then for the Register of Deeds, question is, if we didn't have this funds, what's your plans for making this happen? Obviously, were you just going to kind of spread this out over several years?
Right. I cannot move forward with U.S. imaging until I have the total amount to cover the scanning, because they come in, and when the scanning starts, it's a 24/7 operation for about 2 weeks. So they won't be coming back and resetting up. It's all going to be completed at one time. That's why the complete amount has to be paid. So I just continue to try and accumulate the balance in my Rod Tech fund and towards that end. But if we could get that part done, the next phase, the Condor phase, is pay as you go. So if I have $20,000 extra in my budget, then I'll ask for $20,000 worth of conveyance documents to be indexed. In the meantime, the $67,500 for the index books, the researchers may not have everything indexed. So if we only have book and page, they're able to go to and find that document using the index books electronically. So those are the two things that, if that's all that you funded, I'd be extremely grateful, because that speeds up the process.
Other questions?
When this money does arrive, are we going to sit down with, I guess, department heads and or prioritize where we're going to spend this money?
Well, this time around we have a little more time to actually expend the funds. Last time it was a rush. The state, by the time they withheld our funds as long as they did, we ended up having about 6 months to actually get the money spent. And in that 6 months, we had to make sure we came up with a plan, which then changed monthly because the state changed the rules monthly. So that was confusing. This one is going to be a little more straightforward. We have approximately 4 years, about 3.5 years. My suggestion to the commission would be that we have some additional meetings to discuss what kind of programs you want to see this funding go towards. The last funds, the CARES Act funds, we did not have departments come in and ask for money specifically. The board formed a committee. That committee reviewed requests and made a determination, and then a suggestion back to the full board on how the funds would be spent. That was accepted. I think that in this case, because we do have a little more time, I think we can maybe split the money out for different programs and then create a process, an application process for those funds.
You don't see it coming in as like an enhancement on your budget and then applying for the funds?
I don't think it would necessarily be appropriate for any departments to request the funds directly, because these are one-time funds. These are not operational funds. I think it would be appropriate for the Board of County Commissioners to determine. If the board comes back and says, we want to say $1 million can be used for enhancements to budgets, I suppose that's an approach. But most of our programming within our departments is set up based on annual appropriations. And those annual appropriations are what they are and have been. So I just don't think it's, at this time, I think it'd be premature to listen to or accept requests for funding from the departments.
Okay.
So you're saying we're table it, Mark? Do we get further down the line?
Well, I think it's up to the Board of County Commissioners. I wouldn't recommend approval today simply because we don't know.
Right, we don't know what we're getting.
The
Money isn't in the bank yet.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, we don't even have a deposit yet, so, I mean.
And we also have.
We don't have the funds to even agree to fund $740,000 plus. I mean, we don't even have those funds available, period, to even agree or to make a determination or to debate back and forth what's yes, what's no. We don't even have that available to us to even make that determination.
Yeah, I was going to make a motion to table this until we got a lot more information.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Table it till we get more information. I'll second it. Any more discussion on it?
I just have one question. One more additional question is, what's the total budget for your department right now?
I can't right now.
About 230.
It's not a public with my budget process, but
around 200.
Stacey, we'll have to
around
wait
250.
I think it's about 222,000.
We'll have to wait the public comment to hear your item. Okay? No, not yet. We have to get through this first, then you get it to me.
All right.
So we had a motion and a second. Are we good to call the roll now? Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
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 All righty. We'll see this again. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you.
And could I reiterate that I would request that revenues from the copies be allowed to be deposited into the Rod Tech Fund to reimburse for the expenses, ink and toner and paper?
Would that be a decision made at budget time?
Yes. That would be a
That's
request for budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Okay, emergency management. Chuck back there. I think I see him. Come on up, guys. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hi, Chuck.
How are you today, Mr. McGaw?
Doing fantastic.
That's great.
I just want to bring the commissioners update. Been listening and listening to what Mark had provided me with some information and try to give you guys kind of the 30,000 foot overview of what we've got going and things of this nature. First thing I want to start off with is severe weather, and I know we're in that category right now. And there's a number of different ways that we provide. Sorry, my glasses are fogging up. Number of different ways that we provide information to our local media, and that's either through social media on our part. We have over 12,000 followers on Facebook, so it's a big page. We get a lot of good comments off of that. Working with our local media, and then we have also a social. I'm sorry, what is social? The National Weather Service has what they call National Weather Service chat. So when we put information in there, if you guys are watching the news media on live TV, when they're going wall to wall, they'll say, well, we just got information from Leavenworth County that they have quarter-size hail. Well, they're getting that information directly from us. We put that information in that's visible to all the news media and things of that nature. We start to monitor the weather days out. We don't wait till the day of. When I say days out, just like the storm system that was supposedly to move in, it's still supposed to move in afternoon today. They were talking about a possible severe weather threat, and as the days get closer, that forecast changes. Well, it changed at 1 o'clock this morning. And after 3:30, that's when I put my stuff away and say it's not going to hit till, almost afternoon to today, and then it's not going to be severe. So we take that as a planning process. We reach out to our partnership throughout the county, department heads and employees and school districts and cities, and the list goes on and on. So we provide that watch and warning information to those partners, not only for watch, but also imminent weather. So when a warning is dropped, we take that time, we put it on social media, we do an email blast and get that information out. The county at the present time operates and maintains 46 outdoor warning sirens. The outdoor warning sirens are strategically, if you will, placed throughout the county. We have one that we're proposing to put in at the new school down at K32, and well, in that area. So we try to keep it on public property so it's easier for us to maintain. The Emergency Management Office, we're tasked with the planning and the update of the Emergency Operations Plan and our county's mitigation plan. The mitigation plan has been finalized. What I was hoping is that the county's emergency operations plan is being finalized. The contractor in the state of Kansas is reviewing that at this time. I want to be able to bring both those documents to the Board of County Commissioners, let you folks review it. I'll give you the link, let you look at it, and if you have any questions before we put our final stamp of approval on it, then we get that resolution out that adopts that plan. The county's emergency operations plan becomes the law, if you will, on how we're going to operate. And we can deviate that, especially with the new Senate Bill 40 that was passed. We have quite a bit of latitude in different ways that we can do things. So those plans are out there. We also provide guidance. I'm right now working with Tonganoxie School District with their emergency operations plan. Every other school district in the county, except for Fort Leavenworth this time, they're working on their plan. Has an approved emergency operations plan through the Department of Education. So I feel real confident on that we have a lot of information out there. Commissioners asked about the after-action review of the tornado. That was presented to the board in September of 2019. We have worked through those after-action guidelines, the alert sense that we used that was fairly new. That's our mass notification system that we have up in the county. We've implemented that in different ways that we can utilize that. We don't want to use it for tornado warnings because for some reason that does not go out, and that has happened for mass notification systems. If you recall the Hawaii scenario, we don't want to get into that process. So there's a lot of preparedness that we're trying to educate the general public on, not to rely on mass notification system, but it's there. We can use it at our will, and it really works out well. Web EOC, that was another thing. I know with the health pandemic that's been going on, we've been inundated with Web EOC every day. Not only us, but the health department. Web EOC is a virtual emergency operations center, if you will, between the state and the other partners across the state, as well as those different organizations. So the pandemic has really caused quite a change in how we operate. Everything that we've been doing been virtual, as you well know, since just before the beginning of 2020, when they thought that things were turning on. Put that into perspective, the Emergency Management Office is working as the logistics chief, if you will, through the planning process to assist our medical facilities and the health department. Right now we're providing 75 different facilities across the county with personal protective equipment. And since March of last year, we've provided over 800,000 pieces of PPE to various locations throughout the county, and we still continue to do that. We sent out information on Friday to all these facilities, and we're talking long-term care, nursing homes, and things of this nature, dentist offices, doctor's offices, hospitals, the list goes on. And this is PPE that they cannot get on a normal basis. Using gloves, for an example. They cannot get gloves on a regular basis, even though it's set out there. If they need gloves today, they can't wait 60 days out until those gloves arrive. That's even to include our health department, EMS, and first responders. So that that product comes from the National Strategic Stockpile. The state of Kansas has a huge warehouse. We provide an order to them, usually on a Wednesday. We pick it up on Friday and bring it back, and we have a smaller warehouse, if you will, down at the annex that we store our product in there. And as people need it, we can immediately grab it and get it to them. When I said we send that information out on Friday for kind of an order, if you will, of the various items that we have, we put together a list, and we do a pick on that that is overseen by myself. It's signed off by the facility that's getting it, And if it's a large order, it's signed off by the law enforcement sheriff's office. We make that delivery on Thursdays usually, and then again pick it up on Friday. It was discussed about the shelter program. We do not have a shelter program in Leavenworth County, nor do they have any across the state of Kansas. That has been pushed off to volunteer organizations, and that happened back in the early 80s. I think the city of Lansing would provide the community center. When John Bennett was alive, he would open that up, and that's where we run into issues, is that we need to make sure somebody is there to open up those facilities. They need to be ADA compliant. They need to meet certain specifications to be called a storm shelter. So it became a liability issue to the municipalities across the state and actually across the nation, that if it doesn't meet a certain criteria, wind, is it going to flood, things of this nature, is it providing a generator, the list goes on, that we need to be looking at. So that went away, but we do have a shelter program that is maintained by the American Red Cross. And the American Red Cross uses that for humanitarian purposes, that when there's a storm, tornado come through and destroy somebody's home, that Red Cross would be able to go out. They already know that they already have shelter managers that can stage and put these facilities together. We help them in the logistic portion of it to give them ideas. You could use this church, or you could use the community center or Lansing's community center because it meets a certain criteria. And then they go out themselves and look at that. So if it doesn't meet that FEMA criteria on a storm shelter, and it's pretty in-depth when it goes through there, even along with the schools, when they look at schools, they have to meet what they call FEMA 360 process in making sure that that building can withstand 250 mile an hour winds and things of this nature. Last thing I was going to touch base on, and then I'll open a question. I know the FEMA reimbursement, I hear that quite often. And commissioners, I can assure you that the money is going to come. I don't know when. There was over 500 applicants with the storms that went through here in 2019. Right after 2019, we were hit with COVID. Now we got 105 applicants added to, and then all the cities within with COVID. So that just stair-step this up as we go through there. We've already been included into the process. I've taken it upon myself, and I'm working with Zach, and I'll be meeting with Bill Knoll here in the short term. Sitting down with him, what I plan to do is just load the system up. It's a portal that you go in, you add the information to it, and then FEMA's caseworker, which I do not have yet, I do not have a caseworker yet. They're in the process of hiring 40 more in the state of Kansas just to have them help in processing through this process. And we're going to load that information up so it's there for them to sort through it and work through the process. So I wish I could say that, hey, it'll be here tomorrow, but I'd definitely be lying to you. It's not been fun for myself. It's asked about it through many different agencies across the state, and it's just a time-consuming. Everybody's working from home on a state level. I say everybody, most everybody, so that makes it difficult. I said, just come up and show us what we need to do. Well, we can't do that. We can't do that. Well, but can we do a Zoom? Well, we don't have the internet, and we're talking about individuals that are from home. We don't have the internet capability to provide that to you, but we're working on it. So I'm not trying to make excuses for the state. I'm not trying to make excuses for myself. I'm not trying to make excuses for federal government. It's heartbreaking. I know we've got money. I know we had to wait on projects like the Hillsborough Road.
Yeah, I was wondering, that's part of this FEMA program right now, right?
That's correct.
That's part of this application process.
And that was added into. We had to wait till the Corps got finished with their project and whatever we had on top of that. So we're set. We just, like I say, we're going to get that uploaded and just hurry up and wait, I guess.
Frustrating, I understand that, Chuck. Okay, any questions from the?
Just on the new tornado siren is what down at the school? I mean, that's a great location and What's the cost of that?
$27,000.
Oh, okay. I thought they were more expensive.
Well, they're expensive.
Well, that's expensive, but all of your 46, they're all upgraded, right?
That's correct. We upgraded that here and
2 years ago, 3 years ago.
yeah, 3 years ago.
Okay, so you've got all up to date.
We should be good for another 50 years. I say that because that's how long the other ones lasted.
Well, did they last?
Yeah.
They were free.
We still got a maintenance process with that, and that's about $42,000 a year for the maintenance on 46 sirens.
And I know they're outdoor warning sirens. A lot of people don't understand that they are outdoor. You cannot be in your house all
and always hear it.
And hear it.
Unless you live next door.
But you should be out looking at the clouds anyways. So do we have enough in the county? Is there a need to add some more?
Commissioners, you know, if you ask me, we could have one on every street corner, you know, and it's still not be enough.
I know.
But yes, we could use some more. I look at the different areas with Baser growing out in various different areas. We could see one in there. Linwood growing out. I could see another one in at least north of Linwood in that particular area. Easton area is real shy. We could use a couple on the west end of Easton. I don't have anything west of Easton. The closest one I have is County Road 13 and Potter Road, if you will. So that's a long ways out, besides what's in Easton proper. But we try to keep it in the populated areas. Lansing seems to be pretty well covered. You got to look at a 2.5 mile radius, so that's 5 miles that those sirens are. So I do have some holes.
Yeah,
that we could
46. Yeah, that doesn't cover the county.
Right, that we could use. You get west of Jarlow, you know, you could see some more out that area. But the outdoor warning sirens is just that. And we try to do public education where we ask people, for those that are viewing, that weather alert radio is great.
And the app on your phone.
Yeah, and the app on your phone. They can actually download the AlertSense app.
Right.
They contact our office, emergency management office or sheriff's office. It's on the web pages that you can go out there and download that app on your phone.
Yeah, and it's loud.
Yeah.
It's loud. The AlertSense. I mean, you know, it definitely it'll wake you up.
You know, 80% of Americans are not prepared for a disaster.
Right.
And when I first started, it was 95%. So that's been 32 years. So you can see that we're gaining a
Pandemic's probably going to help
as we go through the process. So
Yeah, it's amazing the number of people that don't really understand what they need to even have within their homes
Until it happens.
and
We're a busy
to be
world.
prepared. So,
We're a busy world.
but you guys do a great job, in my opinion, of educating.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vicki.
Mike, did you have something?
Yeah, well, I just want to compliment you for all the efforts after the aftermath of the 2019 tornado was really, you guys did a really great job. Just to repeat that, but you mentioned this county emergency operations plan, and you said you're going to bring it before us. What's kind of the timetable on that? And then once that arrives, will you be having trainings with the various departments of the county and that?
I was hoping to have training as we were going through this process, as far as with the county department heads. But we've been really focused on COVID. I mean, that's
right.
That's our life. I mean, I've got 3 conference calls today reference COVID, you know, in the emergency management world. So it never ends. But yes, that is our goal, is to have drills and exercises with the new emergency operations plan. It's going to be like, here's a new toy, this is how we play with it. So that is the plan. I know that when we did the after action review, I actually had it slated to be in the first quarter of 2020 to start working through that process. But again, COVID. So COVID's a good excuse right now for everything.
Oh yes. So when is the timeline for
I
that?
could actually get the mitigation plan so you folks could start reviewing that. The mitigation plan, to understand, is actions that we can do as a county, as a city, school district, to mitigate. Say we got a flooding issue at some intersection. What can we do to make this better, and then we could apply for mitigation funds possibly to make that better. We could apply for mitigation funds to put in a safe room, for an example. We did that at the annex. We got a few dollars to put that storm shelter room in the center there, in the middle of the annex down there. We got a little bit of money from mitigation funds for putting that in there. So that's where the mitigation plans come from. The emergency operations plan, it's still under construction. It's basically just loading maps, but I can provide you, I'll provide you the link. And you folks can peruse through that at your leisure and look at it and review it. And then if you have any questions, just get back with us. But as far as getting that approved, I'm looking at mid-May, early June to get that done.
Now, would you say you're as prepared or as ready as one can be if we did have another tornado? Are we about where we were before the last tornado as far as you've got plans to?
I'll be retiring, sir.
I mean, you have a plan to. Yes. You seem to have a good plan last time, and
always have a plan.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but I have folks all across the state that contact me on a regular basis on how to do debris removal, how to deal with the mitigation process on XYZ, because I've been through so many, and the first one that came through, I wasn't worth a darn. But now I feel very confident in the staff and even our county department heads and what have you. They know what their responsibilities are.
Well, thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Especially getting up in the middle of the night and watching the weather. I don't miss that one bit.
I'm going to come sit in your driveway.
Fine with me.
So if you happen to see the truck, that's
fine with me.
I'm watching the hill.
Okay, Jeff, do you have anything?
Chuck, we sent a letter out not too long ago informing all the taxpayers that they needed to put a visible address on their driveway if it was missing. Do you notice if that made a difference? I've noticed.
I have noticed
new addresses being put
that
up.
haven't had it. They're coming up with the signs and stuff like that and posting them on the post. I have seen more of them going up. I think it probably would be a good reminder to just, again, social media. We could do that on between the counties and mine, and then all the fire departments share ours too. The addresses are important.
Okay. Yeah, I think it helped a little, but I think we could do it a couple more times.
Yeah.
And just thank you, and I'm trying to put together all the stuff I need for the issue and the individual that I've been trying to
You're welcome.
Communicate with regarding some of the issues with 911 and renaming streets and roads and such. So I really appreciate that, for taking the time to get me that information.
Yeah, it's changed a lot since it started, isn't it, Jeff?
Boy, has it. I can
I can tell you, I love my job.
Yeah, we don't any longer say that it's, by so-and-so's barn on the corner and head down.
Well, I remember his first office. I mean, that was interesting. So thanks for all the work. Did anybody else have any other things? I want to appreciate you coming out and giving us an update on that.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
And I will keep you informed on the FEMA. Mark, I'll let you know if I hear anything that you can share with the folks.
You were not trying to bug you to death.
No. I hear it. It's a joke.
Okay.
I understand.
Thank you, sir. On additional public comments, Stacy, did you want to address someone up?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
That is in my district.
I just wanted to address a couple issues that I saw on the agenda. I was looking up the tax sale stuff, and I happened to see that. And Terry was going to give a presentation. Well, she did. But in the presentation, it stated in the packet that the Register of Deeds office was impacted. The revenues were down because of COVID. That's not true. Last year, if you look at the end of the year, it was a great year for the Register of Deeds office. Our revenues were higher than what, was anticipated. And I don't have my glasses, so I'm trying, and I was hurrying to take
Stacey,
we got an extra.
Oh, dude, that would be great. I'll look really good at any moment.
It'll make you look
Yeah.
like man.
How's that?
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay. And back when, the title companies, the offices that impact them are district court, my office, the appraiser's office, the treasurer's office. And during the COVID, yes, we shut down, I think it was, March 18th. And, but, there were no hiccups. I mean, the real estate industry would have totally shut down if it wasn't for my office. Because district court's an important role for the title companies. And, that they were shut down. They had no access to get to their records. But I had the access on my computers to district court. And I was able to assist the title companies in, looking up information, on the court cases and, other things, like the taxes and stuff. But the treasurer does have access to, her information, and it's free. The appraiser's office has, access to their records for the title company, and it's free, to the public. There's a lot of things that, go into play, for the title companies and offices and stuff. But we got through that, and we had no issues. They had no issues. And another thing, she talked about the indexing, the track books. So I think it was, last year, a couple years ago, I had, when Susie Palmer was the register, she had all the books, microfilmed, track books. We've got subdivision books and we've got track books. Well, when you refer to the track books, Jeff, when I refer to track books, what are they?
Parcels.
The section, township, and range books. Well, those, I had those all redone up, because you can go through a certain date, but we were still indexing in them, and they're closed now because she's not indexing in the books anymore. So all that stuff is on a CD down in her office that has, all the track books the section, township, and range books that were all, pictures were taken of the pages and stuff. And so the only thing that would need to be updated would probably be, like the subdivision side. And to say that you've indexed 4,600 documents, well, there hasn't been 4,600 documents indexed, so I don't know that there's been any documents indexed since I left, back stuff. There's images that have been uploaded to the system, but that doesn't do anybody any good because you have to know the book and page in order to, get that. When you say they're indexed, that means you've indexed grantor, grantee, legal descriptions, all that. And there was a transaction summary in that packet that she was comparing from last year to this year, March. It said March 1 to April 15th of last year, but then hers for this year says March 1 to April 5th. So I don't know what was trying to be compared, but they're not the same. It's not the same dates. And the revenue back in March, normally January, February, and March the revenues are down, and then they start increasing. But her fees have, her this year, of course, has increased because the real estate market has never slowed down. It's just kept going. Mike, you know that. You have a realtor's license, so you know that. And but it's never slowed down. But there have been additional fees that are impacting our citizens. Are you guys aware of all the fees that have been assigned? I mean, that's out there.
Stacey, give just a few more seconds. That alarm's gone off on me.
Well, I won't be able to finish, but I can come back next Wednesday
Okay.
or whatever.
Well, I appreciate you coming forward.
Okay.
Thank you, Stacey. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Michael, thank you for the glasses.
And we got a few sets up here if you ever need them.
You guys have a good day.
You too.
You too, Stacy.
Did any of the county commissioners have anything to do on additional public comment?
Just what we've been doing before we go to our work session.
Yeah.
Well, went to Fairmount Township last week. I have Baser tonight. Yesterday, I was part of the MARC meeting. I had to leave for the board of directors part. I was attending the budget and personnel part. But I had to leave. I went to a ribbon cutting at Baser for a new business, the Baser Farmer and Craft Market. They opened up yesterday. Well, they've been open, but they had ribbon cutting is officially open. Yeah. And while I was at Baser, we met with the mayor and found a new business. I don't know how long it's been there. It's Rough and Rigid. They do fire pits. It's an amazing business, and like I said, look and see who does some advertising for it.
Patrick Mahon.
That's an amazing business in Baser that I didn't know about.
I didn't see if you showed it, pretty impressive.
What's the name of it?
Rough and Rigid. So Baser's got some new businesses coming in, and definitely a lot of new homes coming in.
Oh, I saw those.
And one tonight, Anna Mary Landauer will be honored, I believe, at the Baser City Council. She was invited, so I'm not sure what they're going to do for her tonight.
That's great.
And that's about it. That's all I got.
Mike, do you have anything?
I would dovetail on that. I toured Baser with the mayor, and I knew there was a lot of subdivisions growing down there, but it's exploding in Baser.
Myself, you're right, Mike.
I was very impressed and listened to some of their concerns about economic development issues and that kind of thing. Also, this past weekend, I attended the Republican State Convention, and the county commission thing that I was able to do is I was able to speak to the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader about Senate Bill 23, which is our tornado relief. And they still say that there is a possibility that in the veto session that they can move that. I can't believe a bill that everybody agrees on.
A common sense bill?
It's passed the Senate 39-1, and it's waiting in the House Taxation Committee, and I cannot believe I'm losing my faith in government. The fact that they can't bring that to the floor for a vote.
Dragging it.
So
you are government.
Well, not really. Local. So that's all. And
Jeff.
Attended the Port Authority meeting and also met with Easton and Kickapoo Township boards and volunteer fire departments to kind of go over the American Rescue Plan monies that will be made available to them to fix some issues they've had, like their pager system is outdated. I thought back in 2010 when we updated from analog to digital on the entire 911 system, I thought all the townships came along with us. According to them, they did not. So
that would include the radios too.
Yeah. So we're hoping to use that to fix that issue that they didn't know about, and meet with Easton City next week for the same thing. So that's about it.
Vicki.
Also attended the Port Authority meeting last week, the Zoom meeting, and then last minute yesterday had a nice meeting with Delaney, who's our newest regional representative for KDOT. She had requested a phone meeting, and so I sat down with myself, Mr. Lothry, and Bill Knoll, and kind of also put some of our other things on their radar. Yet again, we had an opportunity to do that, and there will be, I think there's a press release that's getting ready to come out for the grant that we've received on County Road for the project on Tongi Road. And so that'll be some information, that'll get out there to give of the grant that we've received. And the CEO meeting for Workforce Development was canceled for lack of agenda items that was scheduled for yesterday. So I got out of that Zoom meeting. We got an email update, and but there's nothing really that's significant to report right now. And I also met with the mayor yesterday for Baser. Yes, I knew that you were going to a ribbon cutting yesterday afternoon for the farmers market. Well, I had to come back to meet by phone with staff, and
what did you do in Baser?
Then had a little bit of fun with Todd Thompson, our county attorney for the new program, volunteer program. So I'm going to pitch that out there, the volunteer program for the county attorney's office, to kind of assist with the backlog and of court cases that COVID has presented to the court systems, and they're seeking volunteers from several different areas, and I had offered to volunteer, and so I had a short interview with somebody from Channel 41 yesterday afternoon as well. So,
All righty. Is there any more? I hope not.
What was the lady's name from KDOT that you visited with?
Delaney, and I do not recall right off the top of my head her last name. I'd have to. She's in the Public Relations Department. She is the new person there for our region.
Okay, could I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that we adjourn.
Second. Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
Mr. Copeland? Aye. We'll take a 5